Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. I'm Jason. I'm going to share my screen. I don't know why I said that. I never say that. It's kind of obvious. I'm going to share my screen and get us started here. Okay, so we've done something in the last couple sessions that at least I've liked, and I hope other people have enjoyed also. We've been doing some live coding on a certain project. More important than what the project is what we're trying to convey. We're trying to convey some testing and object-oriented programming principles. And I'll say something else because somebody else mentioned last time that it was maybe not all that clear. You guys are welcome to speak and participate and share ideas and questions and whatnot during the session. Just interrupt, ask away, go ahead. It's not only welcome but encouraged, just so you know. Okay, so the thing that we're building is something called a word stemmer, and we can kind of demonstrate how it works by looking at the tests. Word spec, let's look at that one. There we go. Okay, so a stemmer is something that's used in natural language processing, and it will stem words in the following manner, like happier becomes happy, happiest also becomes happy. I don't know, engaged becomes engag. Some of these words end up kind of funny, but the point is not to end up with something human readable. The point is to end up with something consistent. And I think, okay, so the last couple sessions, we built this to a point where it's kind of working. And I'll run the test suite just to make sure that I'm actually correct about that. Before I run the test suite, I feel like it's in order to actually create a test directory to put all the tests in. So let me do that. Okay, so now I'm going to do rspec spec, run all the tests. Okay, they don't all pass. Oh, well, because I'm using like require relative, and that's not going to work now that I moved everything. Okay. Okay. Okay, now they all pass. All right, so I'm going to commit that. And if anybody thinks I'm going too fast at some point, you can tell me to stop and repeat what I just did, but more slowly. Okay. So what we have, again, is a program that will stem these words. That's already pretty much working. And so I asked myself, what's kind of interesting that we can do now? And what I thought was maybe we could build a search program, because I asked ChatGPT, I asked, what are some interesting things you can do with a word stemmer? And it gave me several ideas. And one was a search program. And I thought that was good because I deliberately chose for this project something that can be done on the command line without involving the browser at all, without involving a database. I didn't want to make the picture any more complicated than it needed to be. So I downloaded Alice's Adventures in Wonderland from Project Gutenberg. And I have this file, alice.txt, which has the entire text of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. It's not called Alice in Wonderland. It's called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So this can kind of be our search subject. How do you write a search engine? I have no idea. So let's go to ChatGPT and let's get some assistance. And right now, when I go to chat.oh, Okay, this is what we get. Interesting. Okay, now it's back. Sometimes stuff like that happens with ChatGPT. Okay. I built a word stemmer in Ruby. Now I want to build a search engine that searches a text file. Help me implement this. See what it says. Okay. And by the way, it's asking me questions because in my custom instructions, I told it that whenever I ask it a question, it should ask me a question back, or it should ask me questions back so it can give me a more relevant answer. I find that that helps a lot. Okay, what does your word stemmer currently do? Could you share a snippet of the Ruby code? Yes, we can do that. Size of the text file. Okay. Kind of search functionality, performance considerations. Okay. So first, let's share the code and the test. Okay, what's the size? The text file is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Okay. Search functionality. Um, Not exact match. Like it should be kind of fuzzy to take advantage of the stemming. Don't worry about performance. Let's see what it comes up with based on that. Your stemming logic appears to be quite comprehensive. Why, thank you, ChatGPT. Okay, read the text file and tokenize it into an array of words. I think I kind of know what tokenize means, but I'm not totally sure. So, mental note. Pre-process the text. Use your existing stemmer to stem all the words in the text file. Okay, I can understand that. User input, get the search query from the user, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Search, that makes sense. Output, okay. Okay, I don't understand all this. I'm not even going to try. What I want is a small example. Give me a very small and easy to understand example of a search query and the results I might get. Yeah. Okay. The run rabbit, run fast. But I don't think it should return the stemmed version. I think it should return the original version. Otherwise, that like doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think it should return the stemmed version. I think it should return the original version. Okay, I didn't ask for the code for this, but okay. Okay. Okay, we'll say sure. And now we'll say, I want like, I want to write some tests for this, but I'm not sure yet what I would write a test for. help me come up with a very small initial piece of functionality I can build. Tell me the requirements in English, and then give me an R spec that matches the requirements. Let's see what it gives us. Okay, well, it's writing that. I'm going to read this. Read a small piece of text. Okay. Tokenize the text. All this seems like too much. And I'm going to guess the test is going to be too big. Oh, I don't know. Okay, let's take a closer look at this test. Okay, you have the text, you have the search engine. When a matching word is found, I'm not able to scroll horizontally for some reason. There we go. Okay, search running, the running rabbits ran. Wait, the running rabbits run. Okay. Hares, the hopping hares hop even. Okay. No match. Okay, multiple matches. Okay. Yeah, this seems decent, but I do have a question. How does it decide how much of the context to include? I want to understand that before we start implementing it. Okay, in this, how is it decided how much of the context is included? I'm guessing it's just like a configuration setting that we arbitrarily choose. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, so why don't we start to implement this? So I'm going to create a new file called search engine spec.rb. And I strongly suspect I'm not going to want to keep that name, but I'm not worrying about naming or anything right now. An important principle in programming, I think, is don't try to get things right off the bat. Give yourself permission to get it wrong and not get it perfect the first time around. You can always go back and change it, especially if you're using tests. Okay, so we get an error. Not surprising because there's no file called search engine. So let's create it. Okay, now let's run this again. Uninitialized constant search engine. Again, not surprising. Now let's run it. Wrong number of arguments. Okay. Line 10. That's a little bit confusing. Let's take a closer look. Search engine spec.
That's when the let's being called when you're initializing it.
Yeah, the let's are creating a new instance of the class. So you need an initialize method.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let's see what happens now. Okay, undefined method search. Yeah, okay, so let's define a search method. Wrong number of arguments. Yeah, it takes query. Okay, now we're getting some meaningful failures. Let's deal with this first one first, line 11. Okay, the running rabbits run, and we get nil. Okay, now what I'm realizing is this is going to be too hard to implement. There's too much happening in between. Like we would have to take this and tokenize it and remember the original and do blah, blah, blah. It's just way too much stuff. So let's blow all this away and start over a little smarter. Okay. That's too much stuff. It would be too hard for me to write the code that makes those tests pass because the code would have to do so much. Let's see. How about a test for just tokenization? Okay, and something I don't actually understand is what's the difference between tokenizing and stemming? So let me ask that. Okay. I think I get it. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to have my stemming behavior and I don't want to have my tokenization behavior and they're just these islands disconnected from one another. I want one program that all works together. So let's think about this a little more deeply before we move forward. Let's see. I'm going to start from the end, actually. No matches found, matches found. Search for the stemmed query in the stemmed text. Okay. Actually, let's write a test for that. And it is getting hot in here. Excuse me while I disrobe. Okay. So we got the stemmed text. I'm not crazy about that because the stemmed text all happens to be like exactly what it would have been unstemmed. Like you can't actually tell that any of this is stemmed. So let's use a different example. Let's use a different different text example where you can actually tell that the words are stemmed. Otherwise, it's a little confusing. I think we should have at least 2 words that are stemmed. I think we should have at least 2 words in the text that are clearly stemmed. Okay. Okay. That's good enough, I guess. So I'm going to put this in a file. Okay. Then same stuff as last time. Same process. Oops. Okay. Uh-huh. Search stemmed. And that takes an argument. Okay. Now let's focus on the test on line 11. Okay, expected 3 and 9 and got nil. Okay. Why is it expecting 3 and 9? It returns the indices of the matching stemmed words. Okay, so jump is located at 3 and 9, evidently. Okay. I'm gonna have it format this differently. Format the stemmed text array so there's one word per line. I think that'll be easier to read. Okay. There, now it's a little bit easier to see, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Oh, and I made a mistake. Let me just fix that. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to run this again. Now it's no longer on line 11, it's on line 27. Okay. So now I can do this. I can say, here's my test. Here's my application code. Here's my test failure. And just by virtue of the fact that I'm giving it this, it's probably going to try to give me the code that makes the test pass. Okay. So let's see what happens. Okay, that passes. All right. The only trouble is I don't understand the code whatsoever. So let's see what it's all about. Okay, indices equals empty array. Each with index. Okay, we add the index to the result if the current word matches the query. Okay. Okay. Okay, what I'm about to do might seem dumb, but bear with me a second. Is there a better way search stemmed could be written? Because sometimes this works. You can just say like, hey, give me a better answer. And it does. Okay, let's see the difference. I don't know if that's better. It's maybe better in certain ways. Let's see. We're selecting. What are we selecting? Obviously, we're selecting the cases where the word matches the query. But what does this return? I guess we can easily find that out by just doing this. Okay, that returns the word and then its index. Word index. Oh, I see. Well, maybe we can do something like this. Words with indices. And then this. And then this could be like words with indices dot map. I don't love that, but let's see if that even works. Oh, query. Okay. I want to have an extra dot there. Okay, you know what? I can tell that this isn't going to be like a super quick and easy thing to fix. So let me go back to this. I'll always put them on different lines. This works. So I'll commit this now that I have it working, and then I'll refactor. First, I'll run all the tests just out of habit. Okay. Oh, and I can see we have some trailing spaces there. ChatGPT does that sometimes. So let me address that. Whoops. And that's why I always review my code before I do a commit to make sure I don't accidentally commit something I don't intend to. Add search engine. Okay. Okay. So the reason I want to worry about refactoring this is because I find this chunk of code actually pretty hard to understand. And so I don't want to tolerate this piece of code that's really hard to understand. But how can I make it easier to understand? Okay, well let's try the thing I was doing a minute ago. I don't even remember what it was. Oh yeah, it was like words with indices or something like that. Words with indices, and then of course we have to pass the query. And that works. And let me explain further what I'm after here. So the reason this is hard to understand is because there's no abstraction. It's just a bunch of very computery stuff, and there's no layer of abstraction over it to make it obvious to me, the human, what the stuff means. So my attempt in adding words with indices was an attempt to add some abstraction to it so it has more meaning. I have not yet decided whether my attempt was successful, But we'll keep going here. Okay. We do this dot map thing. I feel a little bit uncomfortable with this because it's like we're mapping it, and I think what we're dealing with, the underscore and then index, I think is the word and then the index, but we are only interested in the index. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT this. Is there a more elegant way to extract the indices? And you know what? Even before we do that, I don't think I like I think this is a really weak abstraction that I created here, this words with indices thing. Okay. Let's think about this. This is a piece of stemmed text. Every item in this array, every element in this array, I think it should be a stemmed word that has a value and a position. So let's try something. Okay. Stemmed word.rb. Stemmed word. And then let's say stemmed words equals stemmed text.map word. Stemmed word. No, let's not do that. Let's do word index. I think we have to do okay, well, let's worry about one thing at a time here. Okay. Okay. Stemmed word.new word index. Okay, and this is of course not going to work. Uninitialized constant stemmed word. So let's bring that into the picture. Stemmed word. Okay, wrong number of arguments. That's because of the missing initializer. Value index. Okay, it passes, but obviously we're not yet involving these stemmed words at all. Okay, so what we can maybe do instead is we can say something like, oh, I think we have a new joiner. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. I want to get to where I can see all the attendees. Oh, I messed it up. Okay, I don't know how to work Zoom. Oh, there we go. Okay. Welcome, Myra. I'm not sure how to say your name. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Your yes was a little hesitant. Can you say your name for me so I can hear you pronounce it?
But it's hi everyone. Well, some people say Mayra
Uh-huh.
and another one says Mera. So I'm getting use of both options.
Which one do you say?
I think Mayra, because
Okay.
it's in Spanish.
I'm gonna call you Myra then. Even though I know I'm still not saying it exactly right. Okay. So I think what I was wanting to do here is stemmed words dot select stemmed I'm going to do it like this. Select do stemmed word. And I need a conditional here. Stemmed word dot value equals query. Okay. And then from that, I want to get the indices. Stemmed word dot index. Okay. So away with this, away with this. And when I run the tests, they're not going to pass. Private method select called for nil class. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I can get rid of stem text also. All right. Private method select called for nil class, which is interesting because, oh, stemmed words, not word. All right. Okay. Undefined method value, not surprising. So let's do this. Value equals value, index equals index, and then add a reader value index. Okay, still doesn't pass. We expected 3.9 and we got nil nil. I'm a little bit surprised that we got nil nil because I can't see any reason why this shouldn't work. So we're doing something wrong along the way. Let's see what it is. Okay. I'm now, sorry, I did that kind of fast. I commented out map here so I could see what the value of this stuff is. And instead of 3.9, we get stemmed word, value equals jump, index equals nil. So it looks like the index is never getting set on these words. So I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Because I don't think map returns index, right? It only returns the value.
Yeah, okay. We can, of course, do each with index, but then I think it doesn't do the map portion, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to do this. Can I combine each with index with map? Okay, let's give this a whirl. Okay, apparently that works. Okay. Let's see how easy we feel like this is to understand. So stemmed words equals stem text, each with index.map, blah, 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 stemmed word.new. Okay. I mean, the overall idea, I think, is clear enough. We're initializing these stemmed words. And each stemmed word clearly has a word. Let's say value and index. Because a stemmed word doesn't have a word, it has a value. Doesn't make sense to say a word has a word. Okay, so we're setting stemmed words. And then search stemmed says stemmed words dot select value equals query. Okay. And we could even improve this further, I think. Okay, so the tests all pass right now. We can say stemmed words matching query. We can do that. Let's actually do this. I think this will make it slightly easier to read. Okay. And then here we can do stemmed words matching query dot map index. Okay. And then we can rename this method to let's see, matching indices. Indices of indices of indices of. Okay. So, okay, let's start from the outside and go inward. Expect engine.indices of jump to equal 3 and 9. I think that's decently easy to understand. Expect indices of fly to equal empty array. Okay. We already went over the stemmed words thing. And then how's indices of defined? Well, we take the stemmed words that match the query, and then we map the index. That makes enough sense. And then if we're curious how stemmed words matching is defined, we take all the stemmed words and we select the ones whose value matches the query. I'm pretty happy with that. And I hope you guys feel like what we just did was worth the time and effort that it took to take it from that first very difficult to understand version to this one that's easier to understand. It's more code, but I think the code is easier to understand. And sometimes people say that as a negative, like, oh, the code you ended up with is like more code than what you started with. It's like, well, yeah, but like the amount of code isn't like it. We're not paying by the line of code, you know. The thing that costs is the time that it takes to understand. Okay, so I'm going to commit this. So I think I maybe heard somebody start to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jason, how would you feel about chaining those methods versus right now? Right now you have the, where you're having a secondary method be private, and mainly because I was thinking of if I was thinking search engine dot stem words matching dot indices, right, and where you're passing the query to the stem words matching. As far as the readability and understanding, it flows a little better to me, but I didn't know what you thought.
Okay, let me take a look. I have to confess that I did not follow because I was distracted, but I'll
Sure, yeah, sorry, I know, yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Type in quest.
Okay, I will commit this. What did I do? Oh, just refactoring, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Carl, you were talking about chaining something.
So right now you're doing search engine dot new and then indices of the query. And if I was thinking of it from a readability, the indices is more of a subproduct of the search. And so if I was going to say, if I was thinking this from reading it through in a Ruby-ish way, in my mind at least, I'm thinking engine dot search matching jump dot indices.
Oh, I see.
See, and so if we flip instead of making a private method, if we made it a second public method and then made it chainable, it like right now, engine.indices of, it's like, why is the indices asking for a search term?
Yeah.
Right. And again, it's more. This is more just a question and discussion thing. Like what do you think of when you're thinking of naming these things? Which is right the hardest part of all of our jobs.
Well, actually, Carl, you made me realize something.
Yeah.
Ruby has, hang on a second. As I think this, I'm gonna type it into ChatGPT. Okay, Ruby has an array method where you can do, for example, 1, 2, 3 dot index of 1, and it will return 0, right? Maybe that's exactly what the method is called. I don't remember. Oh, and it's actually connecting it to this code. What if there are multiple indices? What will Ruby's index method return then? Sorry, Carl, what you reminded me of was like, it seems like it would be logical to make our code like consistent with native Ruby code.
Right.
And that made me curious about all this, even though it has very little to do with what you said.
Yeah, no, I was following you.
Well, the thing that I started thinking once Carl started saying that is, should the search engine return a search result? Because I could see a lot of metadata about what you're searching be kind of relevant with that.
Well, also, I kind of reject ChatGPT's suggestion to call this a search engine, because it's like, I think what this actually is a stemmed word collection. Yes. So let me do that, and then I want to address everything everybody said, but I want to do this too. So okay, stemmed word collection. Okay, and then I'm gonna rename this file. Stemmed word collection. Okay, and this becomes stemmed word collection. Okay. Engine becomes stemmed word collection. Stemmed word collection. And then I'll rename the file. Okay, I'm gonna run that. Stemmed word collection spec. Oh, it's looking in the wrong place for some reason. I'm in the wrong folder. Okay. Okay, so everything still passes. I guess I'm going to commit what I just did. Rename search engine to stemmed word collection. Okay. Okay, so now we have stemmed word collection dot indices of jump. Expect stemmed word collection dot indices of jump to equal 3 and 9. And then here, for some reason, I feel a little bit funny about this, but we start with a stemmed text and we turn that into stemmed words. Okay, and then to address your point, Carl, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT, like,
Well, I like what you did,
Yeah.
because it instead of since the methods, I think it still holds that the methods didn't make sense with that class name. I was suggesting change the methods to be more in line with what the class name was purporting to be. You changed the class name to more in line match what you felt like the methods and the purpose of the class was. So I think that the indices of matches that much better now than the original.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the search engine is like the whole program is the search engine, and it's comprised of these smaller concepts. But I'm going to ask, do you think there's a more idiomatic way this could be written? Also, I noticed that I have this search stemmed here, which no longer makes sense because we don't have something called that. Oh, yeah, I should have been more specific with my question.
Nothing else. Maybe the indices of should just be indices, kind of match with index.
I think I agree, Jonathan. I wasn't talking about the test, just the API of my code. No, positions of stemmed word, I don't think is better. Okay, I like your suggestion, Jonathan. Indices. Change this. Change this. Okay. Yeah. Expect stemmed word collection dot indices jump to equal 3.9. I feel good about that. And the way I like it, the thing I try to shoot for is like, I want it to make sense and be easily understandable at every level. So like this is the top level, stemmed word collection dot indices jump. And then if I ask like, okay, well, how is indices implemented? I can go here and see, okay, stemmed word collection, it's this collection of stemmed words. And then indices means stemmed words matching query dot map index. Okay, so that's easy enough to understand. And then I go down to stemmed words matching. We select the stemmed words whose value matches the query. That's easy enough to understand. And then if I want to see how stemmed word is implemented, we see this, and obviously that's quite easy to understand. Okay. I feel like there's a couple. Oh yeah. I'll keep this brief because I don't want to risk getting like overly philosophical or whatever. But I was talking with one of my consulting clients the other day about this. There's your code, and there's like the real things that exist in the world. Like there's really a thing called a word. There's a thing called a stemmed word. It's an abstract thing that's not tangible, but like it's a pre-existing concept. And then there's like this thing we invented called a stemmed word collection. Like nobody's ever heard of a stemmed word collection before. I mean, if they did, it was just a coincidence. We're not naming this after something that really exists. But there's your code, there's the real world stuff that some of your code might be named after. And then there's this third thing that's like the conceptual model of your program. And the conceptual model isn't the real world stuff. It isn't your code. It's related to your code, but it's not the same thing. And it's like the conceptual model is like the idea. It's like the picture in your head of what's represented by the code. And the code influences the conceptual model. The conceptual model influences the code. And every application has a conceptual model, just not every application has a conceptual model that was consciously designed. Most applications, I think, have a conceptual model that just came into existence unconsciously, and therefore it's not very coherent and doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you do explicitly think about your conceptual model and think about like, okay, for this code, what conceptual model does this conjure up in a person's mind? Is it logically consistent? Is it easy to think about? That kind of stuff. You can do a lot to make the system easier to understand. Okay, so that's my little monologue about conceptual models. I'll let everybody go soon, but before we go, anybody want to discuss anything about what we did today? I'll let the uncomfortable silence sit until somebody says something. Okay, apparently really nobody has anything to say. All right. Well, a couple other quick things before we go. I want to share some news with everybody. This week, I quit my job. So that's a big step for me. Thank you. It's not actually over yet, but I had the conversation with my boss and that stuff. So my job is going to be over very soon, and I'm going to be consulting full time. Yeah, so you can go to codewithjason.com and see my whole spiel about what I do for consulting and stuff like that. But it's similar to what we did today. I help people. I don't mainly write code for people. A lot of people, when they say consulting, they mean contracting, really. But what I do is actually consulting, where I don't write code for people. We get on a call and we look at your code and we talk about your code, and I help you. I like to think I help you improve as a developer. And so anyway, I'm just saying all that because nobody's ever going to hire me if nobody knows about it. So I like to talk about it a little bit. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming tonight, and I will see you next time.
Good stuff. Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks.